You brought me in. You invited me. But you're the one to blame.
Halloween Ends has absolutely divided the fan base and has given even Rob Zombie and his 2 films a new lease on life, at least franchise-wise. Some have said it's the worst film of all time. Others have said it's a franchise destroyer. I have a lot of thoughts on it. And to be honest, discussing this film is very interesting because of the roller coaster that it is. Let's get down to brass tacks. In this video, I'm going to go over reasons why fans have issues with Halloween Ends. I will also attempt to show how those reasons might not hold as much weight as it seems.
It's Halloween. We're gonna have a good time tonight.
Here are the reasons why you hate Halloween Ends. Number 1. Laurie Strode. Some say that it's crazy to think that Laurie Strode would be at peace with Michael after he killed Karen and has disappeared. She spent a total of 40 years obsessing and preparing for him, and now all of a sudden she's happy. The movie may not have explained this well, but in the 4 years she did get help with therapy to deal with her trauma. She gives the voiceover explaining this actually, but I think many fans don't connect with what she's saying. She made a choice to move on from it, or else it would probably destroy her, but more importantly, she chose to be better for Allison's sake. You have to remember, Allison was the only family that she had left in her life. I think if most people were in the same situation as Laurie Strode and had the chance to move on and try to be happy with their granddaughter, they probably would have made that same choice. It was never explained in the film how hard it might have been, but you can imagine that it must have been a difficult journey to turn away all those years of obsession and paranoia about the Shape, the boogeyman, and then all of a sudden living day to day, buying a new house and spending time with your granddaughter without looking over your shoulder all the time for Michael Myers. Number 2. Allisons Arc. Allisons Arc is much different than most people expected, and that includes me. I thought that she would search for Michael, be engulfed by vengeance, and so forth, but the reality is that we saw that character before, and it was in Laurie in Halloween 2018 and in Halloween Kills. Allison was moving on as best as she could as well, just like her grandmother. It made sense, to be honest. Even as I'm recording this, I'm saying to myself, this is the way that a character should be, if they're able to be. She most certainly did not want to become what her grandmother was, so she got a job and tried to live her life. Many people will say she fell for Corey too quickly, that their relationship made absolutely no sense. Why would she be with someone accused of murder? My simple answer is, who knows why? Who can say what attracts one person to another? In my personal opinion, this might be one of the least of any issues that happened with Halloween Ends. An issue that is understandable and frustrating with the character of Allison is not heeding Laurie's warning and blaming her for everything. This is obviously a frustrating plot for Allison as a character, seeing how she knows that her grandmother was right about Michael in 2018 and how the relationship was so solid. It was odd to see her choose someone she had just started dating over Laurie. In reality, though, this was Allison rebelling. This was Allison venting. And this was her finding someone to be angry with. Laurie represented her friends' deaths, her parents' death, Cameron's death, and the darkness in her heart. Not to mention the darkness that was all over Haddonfield. Allison was constantly reminded of this wherever she went, whether it was at home, in town, or at work. This rebellion was her releasing all of her rage, all of her pain, and all of her depression. It could have been done in a different way, but it did give Allison an arc that was different from what we saw in the first 2 entries.
When I trusted you, my friends are dead. My parents are dead. You're the one.
At the end of the film, she realized that blame can't only be placed on Laurie, and she realized what Corey really was and who he became. Number 3, Trilogy?
And you blew it! You blew it!
Ends truly does feel disjointed from Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. Things set up don't necessarily have the payoff that many wanted or expected. The flashback scene in Halloween Kills seemed to set up a bigger involvement with Sheriff Hawkins and also with the Myers house as some way to give insight into Michael. Honestly, I thought that Ends would deliver on those plot points in some way, shape, or form. Thinking through it though, Hawkins had already gone through his arc with coming to terms of mistakenly shooting his partner and also stopping Loomis from killing Michael. There was not much more to really do with that. Some say they wanted him to get revenge on Michael or be part of what takes Michael down, but that wouldn't have offset some of the other issues of the film. Hawkins was a side character that many, including myself, really enjoyed, but truth be told, that's what he was, a side character. Regardless of how well Will Patton played the part, he was a side character. It would have been great to see more of him in Ends, no doubt about that. Maybe more moments of his relationship with Laurie, but it was not to be. Number 4, Michael Audrey Myers. Not having Michael much throughout the film is a huge risk and a sticking point for many. I agree with it wholeheartedly. Showing him as injured, old, and weak was an epic shock versus what we saw of him in Halloween Kills. People absolutely hated seeing Michael losing his mask to Corey, being thrown down literally. The disrespect seemed to be at an all-time high. I will not sit here and say it was warranted or that I liked it, because I didn't. I feel it was the way that this was done that gives me the issues. When Corey took the mask, it should have been done in a way where maybe he took it quickly instead of wrestling it from Michael. There have been many times throughout the franchise's history that people have taken the mask, and it wasn't done in a way that showed Michael's weakness, but usually taking him by surprise, if only for the moment. Michael was weak and injured because of the beating that he took in 2018 in Kills. I get that. I do. It's not like he's going to go to the hospital and get medical treatment for his wounds and injuries. Even in Kills, we saw him getting the bandages for his hand after Laurie shot it off with the gun. So this version of Michael can be injured. I think that the issue is fan expectation of how supernatural he is, or how supernatural he's supposed to be. We know he is a man, but seeing him surviving so much punishment and not die set up expectations and ends that could not be met. When Corey sets up Mulaney and Michael charges up, there was a thought that this would bring the shape back. It was probably more of the moment, the thrill of killing, that was giving him some energy. The reality of this version of Michael is that he was still injured, old, actually older, and weaker than he was in Kills. For anyone that is familiar with the X-Men, I would liken Michael's depiction to Wolverine's portrayal in the movie Logan. Logan was older and weaker in general, and more vulnerable because of his adamantium poisoning that his healing factor couldn't stop. He was basically dying, and that is what Michael was doing. He was dying, like a wounded animal, going off into the woods and waiting to die. Michael went off into the sewer. Maybe he got everything he wanted from the house at the end of Kills. Maybe that was him saying goodbye to it before it got demolished. Who knows? Maybe none of it is the case. Michael could just be acting on instinct and just moving from one moment to the next with no plan, no motive, no past, and no future. A blank slate sounds definitely like the shape of a man to me. Does it to you? Do you think there was something as a plan in his head at the end of Kills that was not shown to be fulfilled in Ends? This is a fundamental reason why his mythology is so intriguing to so many people. We don't know what is going on in his head, and even if we did, would it or could it make sense? I agree that Michael should have had at least another scene, maybe 10 more minutes of screen time. That would have satisfied many fans more. This Logan version of Michael was an interesting way to send him off. Maybe not the best way, not an easy way to watch him, but interesting nonetheless. In Halloween Ends, even when he's not shown in a scene, he is there. Everyone is affected by him. The town is infected with his evil. People react to each other in negative ways. So this movie might have the most Michael Myers of any film in the franchise, in a matter of speaking. Number 5, Corey.
It's Halloween. We're gonna have a good time tonight.
Corey is the biggest issue that many people have with Halloween Ends.
And you blew it! You blew it!
He was a character that no one knew, and yet was the lead of the film. Everything revolved around his descent into darkness. Many say Corey should have been introduced earlier in the trilogy, either in 2018 or in Kills. I agree that it would have made more sense and connected the films better. I can also see how this gives Ends a coat of fresh paint symbolically. We always see new characters in movies and trilogies. That's nothing new. It is the job of the filmmaker and the talent to make us care about said new character. Perhaps some didn't get on board with Corey because they just didn't care about his story. Or maybe they were just wanting Michael to be front and center like he was in Halloween Kills. Michael has always lurked in the background throughout most of the franchise. Entries like Kills and Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007 went in the direction of making Michael a more visible character, for better or for worse. Corey's story is interesting because it actually shows him becoming Michael Myers, at least a version of it. The descent into darkness and how that changes a person. To me, this was a way to explain Michael without explaining Michael. Seeing a possible path of evil. In that regard, the Corey character and his arc is pretty brilliant. I think it all comes down to some choices of execution as to why fans didn't like it, and I can understand that. Seeing him unalive at the end was jarring because he was being set up as a shape imposter. Of course, it also showed how lost and crazy he was. Even more so that he was not at the level of the shape. He was not able to truly take Michael's place. Corey was a lesser version of Michael Myers. A reverse, backhanded show of respect for Michael? Maybe, maybe not. At the end of the day though, Halloween Ends did happen, and fans will likely debate it for years to come. Disappointment with the film was high, and as a fan base, there is still grieving. But this video isn't here to make you love Halloween Ends. It's truly just to talk about some of these issues, have a conversation with others, and to see any positives that might have been in the film, and I do believe there were some positives. But what do you think? Are there any things about the film that you do love? And if not, what are the reasons that you hate Halloween Ends? Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. It helps to support the channel, and I'd appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the Night Watch Zone, this is the time to do it. Please do it and become part of this fantastic movie community where you'll never love and talk about movies the same. If you like this video, check out some of my other videos, and I'll catch you later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.